Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's living room. Thank you all for coming. Everyone in the room, all of those signing in online, hello, hello, hello. Tonight promises to be a very exciting night, a new topic for us. I know most of you, but for some of you that I may not, either online or somebody who's going to come back and watch later, I'm Danielle Hicks, and I am helper extraordinaire here at the foundation. My area of responsibility is everything that has to do with patient touch. So patient program services, education, I oversee that with an amazing team of people who are actually the ones getting all the amazing work done. So huge shout out to them too. We're excited tonight. We're gonna do it just like we always do it. I will go ahead and introduce this panel. As most of you know, tonight's lung cancer living room is talking about some current legislation, what's going on right now, what it means to all of you, and how you can help. So with that, I'm going to move to this group. I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves for the patients and caregivers to tell a little bit about their stories. I could read it from a piece of paper in bios, but I think it's so much more meaningful when you're hearing it from them. So I'm going to ask Rosalind to start just because you're on that end. If you'll tell us who you are.
I'm Rosalind Spruitt. I'm actually the wife of Francis, and I was his caregiver during his treatment in 2007 and 2008.
Francis Spruitt, 10-year survivor since last December.
Emily Bennett Taylor. I'm as of last month, a 5-year survivor, 5 years cancer-free, no evidence of disease. I was diagnosed when I was 28 with stage 4 adenocarcinoma, non-small cell. I went through chemotherapy and was lucky enough to find a surgeon who did an extrapleural pneumonectomy and removed my right lung, and then radiation, and yeah, it was 5 years ago.
Oh, great. So it's my turn. Elvidge Proctor. I'm pleased to just be here with all of you, and thank you to Danielle and Bonnie for having me here in the living room. This is my first living room, everyone. So I'm LCA's Director of Health Policy. I've been with the organization for over a year, and prior to that, I was the Vice President of Public Policy for the Tourette Association, a very stigmatized neurological disorder that many people think can be helped, that it's a self-doing act, much like lung cancer, that where patients are blamed for their condition. Tourette syndrome was very much not well understood, and patients were always either misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed, and there was a journey to getting that diagnosis. So having had that opportunity to work and serve that community for about 12 years, and bringing all of that here to the lung cancer community with the same passion for advocacy, which is what I'm here to talk to you about.
Thank you, Elridge. And so with that, you talked a little bit, we're going to start with Elridge. So you talked a little bit about your background, but can you talk a little bit about the policy focus that you bring to LCA?
Absolutely. So having worked with a community of volunteers, patients, for me, it has been a very focused on self-advocacy. Teaching self-advocacy and then having you to apply that. When you think about the concept of precision medicine, well, you have to apply the same concept to bringing values to what members of Congress are actually taking action. So members of Congress are making decisions, they're offering up and proposing what they, in their minds, assume to be the best way to represent you. But without understanding what you care about the most, what's most critical in your household, and what it is that you value in the decision making that Congress is actually taking action on, they can't represent those views. So for me, the focus that I bring to LCA is really advocacy strategies to help amplify the voice of the lung cancer community, in also addressing our critical areas of concerns, which have been federal funding. In my background, I actually have had a number of years in appropriations, which is getting federal funding through the appropriations process. And so we've got key initiatives. As you may know, Lung Cancer Alliance was instrumental in establishing a pipeline at the Department of Defense, known through the congressionally directed medical research program. There's actually lung cancer research being conducted. While it is focused on the military, it has benefits to the entire broader community. And so increasing funding there is a specific area, the focus, where each and every single one of you can help to continue to increase that line item. And then in addition to that, we're working to bring more of a focus to the research that the NIH, National Institute of Health, and its institute, National Cancer Institute, is actually conducting in lung cancer. As you may know, Lung Cancer Alliance years ago was instrumental in getting Congress to pass federal legislation that then instructed NCI, National Cancer Institute, to develop a research framework that would address small cell lung cancer, because again, the effort has been to go to where there are unmet needs and to address where no one else is addressing. And so small cell, there was nothing there. But I think our focus needs to continue to be to drive the message home, drive your voices, bring you to your members of Congress. So a strong effort in your self-advocacy, which would then amplify the voice and help to establish some of the unmet areas that we're working towards today.
Yeah. Local becomes national.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you said, and I'm like, if you and I have had several conversations about this, and I'm the first to admit I don't know a ton about how this works. I remember the cartoons from when I was a kid about the bill on Capitol Hill, but I really, when it comes down into the diving into the details, I really don't know how it works. So you mentioned, your congressmen and women needing to hear from you, the patients, the caregivers, the people who are living it and doing it. What do you mean?
So if you think about every day, you may have conversations with your physician. When you go into the doctor's office, it becomes more of a Q&A. They may ask you to fill out paperwork, or they may simply ask you, how are you feeling today? They rely on the information that you provide to them as intake. And that intake is how they go about diagnosing you or thinking about the types of tests that they might want to run on you. It's how they collect their information to become informed of your current status, how you're doing for the day. So if you think about your members of Congress and the roles that they're in, they hear from people each and every day. They represent large constituencies. And so when you walk into their offices, or if you call them, or if however way you choose to make contact, there are a number of ways that you can do that. You can do it from this living room. You can do it simply on your cell phone. There are a number of ways that we can talk about these ways. But it's you providing to them ways that lung cancer impacts you most personally and what you'd like to see as an outcome. How do you want to be supported? How do you want to be represented in Congress? These are your representatives that you elected. What is it that you want to make most critical and most important to them to take up each and every day in their chambers?
Can I insert on that?
Absolutely, Francis.
So we started doing this about 8 years ago, where we first, through LCA, started meeting our representatives, our district representatives and our senators. Not those people per se. Oftentimes you just meet with an aide or a medical aide or whatnot. But what we found was that they actually have no clue as to how many people actually die per year of lung cancer. They have no idea. They see all kinds of pink marches fly by and all kinds of other things. So we get into their offices and we have to share our own stories. And there's like literally a few hundred of us that arrived there on one of these summits. And so you have to tell your story. That's almost the easy part. But what you find is just they don't understand what's going on. But we've done this now 4 times now, I think, right? And we found that it takes a lot of repetition for these people to finally get it. It's like, oh, that is the largest cancer that we have to deal with. And oh, look, there's a discrepancy in funding. Lung cancer get roughly $1,400 per death, as opposed to, I think, breast cancer is well in the 20,000s.
Right. 23.
Those are just numbers on a piece of paper.
23.
But if we walk into that office and give those numbers a face and a story, that's when they finally start getting it. And that's why we're here tonight, because every single one of you can walk into your district offices and tell your story and convince them that we need to fix things.
We also recognize that it's not that easy for everybody to just run up to Sacramento or wherever their capital may be.
Yeah.
But there are other ways that we are gonna discuss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are a number of ways that you can reach your representatives. Through our website, there's one, as an example, we have an action center, and directly with just the click of your mouse, you can send a form letter to your members of Congress, and the letter allows you to personalize it, to include your personal story, and to state your specific reasons for your ask. So that's one way. Another way is you can pick up the telephone and just call the Capitol switchboard. Literally, the number, you can find it on the website, but anybody who wants to jot it down, it's actually 202-224-3121, and ask to be transferred to your representatives, and you'll be able to speak with them.
Okay, so with that, and I know we've had a little bit of interaction from some of the other panelists, but I want to take a deeper dive. So Francis, if you shared a tidbit of your story, but if you could share a little bit more, and then tell us how and why you chose to become an advocate.
Sure. So I usually tell a little bit of the story because I always feel like I'm a lightweight in a room of heavyweights. I was stage 1B 10 years ago. I had a right upper lobectomy on Christmas Eve of 2007. My surgeon said, I'm sure you don't want it scheduled on Christmas Eve. And I said, well, yeah, I do. That was the best
That's
Christmas.
the soonest you can do it?
Yeah, let's go get it done. And then, so I stayed in the hospital for 3 weeks. And then after that, I had chemotherapy in the spring of 2008. How I got involved with advocacy was really very accidental. I ran into, you may know her, Joanne Granzella at a lung cancer alliance table in San Francisco. They had
It was the cancer conference that UCSF had held a couple of years in a row.
Yes, I know exactly.
I ran into Joanne, and I didn't know that she was actually looking at me as, being her replacement as a chapter person for Lung Cancer Alliance. One thing led to another, and we went to DC for the first time in, I think it was in 11 or 12, I can't remember. And I encourage all of you to at least do that once, to go to DC, meet with not even your own representatives, but maybe your state people. We met people from Southern California and whatnot. But the point here is meet with them, share your story, and tell them how important it is for them to work for us for the lung cancer cause. It's a very straightforward conversation you have. What it did for us was we started understanding the process a lot better. We had excellent support from the Lung Cancer Alliance. They prep you, they tell you what to say, they tell you who you're going to meet, and there's this whole schedule. And so you're right, you're totally intimidated. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to walk through the hallways of power. Right? Actually, when you have the meeting, you're the one who's in power. You're the one who's telling the story. You're the one that matters. They actually have to listen to you, and it's often it's an aid. But like the second or third time, we met this guy from, Barbara Boxer's office, the aide, and he recognized us. He said, oh, there's Rosalind and Francis again. and those are important touch points. Those are important meetings. It's not that a law is passed that same year, but it's moving the small increment. It's making it move.
Yeah, what I will say is there is something insanely powerful about it.
Yeah.
Once you get past, feeling like a teenager who's getting pulled over by the police for the first time, where you're just like, it's the authoritative sort of thing. And you really have to step back and realize that these are people just like you and I, right?
Yep.
And Elridge mentioned, a few who have been personally affected by this. They're people. They're people in high power, but at the end of the day, they put their heads on their pillows just like we do. They worry, they stress, they get sad, they get angry just like we do. So
Cancer.
yeah, they get cancer just like we do.
We do what we do because we care, obviously. I mean, you guys were in the room when I cried in front of Thompson's aide. It's the unfairness of the situation that teaches us all, should touch us all very deeply. And we all have our story. We all have a very compelling story to tell. And that's what we need to get across to those people who are actually in their position of power.
I think, Rosalind, you and I met for the first time in Berkeley.
At your walk.
So long ago. It was at one of the Jill's legacy walks, and I think when Emily gets to her story, that will be kind of part of her journey and what kind of went through her head when she was not being properly diagnosed up front. But we met because LCA was going to be doing a walk over there, and we immediately was like, what can we do to help you? Like, what do you guys need? So we've known each other for a long time. Yeah. So what role, I'm kind of skipping a little bit here before I jump over to Emily's story, but what role do you as a caregiver play in all of this? Clearly you're side by side and you're marching the hill and you're hopefully calling that 202 number at least 4 times a day.
Oh, Mike Thompson knows us by name. Well, my role as a caregiver, as all you caregivers know, is your focus totally changes from, in my case, I have 4 children, but my youngest was still home, and it shifted from him to him, and that was quite a change for the whole family. As I told Emily, I refuse to look at any information, any statistics or anything. When he would talk about things, he would give me advice. Make sure you keep the house. Make sure you said, don't talk to me about those things. I don't want to. We're not there yet. When we get there, then we'll talk about those things. But we're not there yet. So let's just take it one day at a time, and try to get through today. And so that was kind of my mentality. I think if I had known the statistics, I probably would have been a hot mess. So I was grateful that I didn't know. He's really a miracle guy because he says, well, I was only stage 1B, but he had a tumor like this big in his lung, and it was just miraculous that it hadn't spread. To me, that's the most amazing part of his story. Even his lymph nodes came back clear, which was, his surgeon said, I would never have, expected that. It was really a shock to her.
But the even more amazing part of his story is that he's fighting so hard for others.
And that was one of the things I wanted to point out, too, when you were talking about being sort of a lightweight in this sort of, the heavyweight sort of arena. It doesn't, for the most part, and I think one of the most challenging things in this space is the amount of people affected, whether it be a patient diagnosed at whatever stage or a caregiver that stays involved, that stays active. And I think, again, we could point it back to stigma, we could point it back to a lot of things, but the simple fact that you're how many years out now?
10.
And I say this about her all the time too. You don't have to be here. Right. You don't have to be doing this. You can be on a beach somewhere. She could be on a beach somewhere.
It wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah.
If I could,
we'd get you a really nice cover up.
Okay, maybe a canopy.
If I could,
I don't know.
if I could speak to that aspect of a little bit, I had already had an uncle and an aunt pass away from lung cancer before he was diagnosed. Yeah. But it was like, oh, they had cancer, they passed away. And that's as far as it went in my mind. I never focused on the type of cancer they had. And then we had a good friend of ours who we just saw Sunday. We've kept in touch with her. And she's been active with us and doing some advocacy. Her daughter told us, yeah, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and we were like, wow. And so these connections, though, didn't really sink in until he got lung cancer. And then I started looking
Personal.
at, realizing that even my ex-husband's mother died of lung cancer, and the list of people that we have known and lost to lung cancer has become quite long, and not through advocacy, even just family and friends. So this is why when I saw the statistics of the funding and the discrepancy in the dollars, it just, it just rankled me. And when I get rankled, I get really active and I get really noisy. So, when between the two of us, I'm the more vocal of the group.
But
And
we're
so,
just as pissed.
Yeah,
but it's
I
like,
get it.
this isn't right, and I'm not just going to sit back and let it happen, because my new mantra is, if not us, who? If not now, when?
Yeah.
And this is how I'm living my life these days, because apathy really gets to me, and nothing moves forward with apathy.
I love the mantra. I do love the mantra.
And don't we all just have a much better appreciation of, waking up and having a day in front of us? Just one day. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll take one.
I want to be mindful of time, and
Yeah.
I want to get
Yeah.
to Emily, and I'm going to ask you the sort of questions I asked Frances, and sharing your story and how and why you chose to become an advocate.
Well, the reason I chose to become an advocate is sitting several people down. I always say that Bonnie is a force to be reckoned with, and because when she was diagnosed and when she fought her battle against lung cancer, I always say that she could have, driven off at 100 miles an hour and put cancer in her rearview mirror. But I think the reason that most of us are here and thriving and doing well after this diagnosis is because someone like Bonnie chose to turn around and advocate and push for those that maybe didn't even know they needed the help, or we didn't know we were going to be diagnosed, but you've created this platform of support and help for those of us that were coming in after you. And so, we were connected with you later on, but very early on, before I was diagnosed, I was kind of introduced to advocacy without realizing it. There had been an event for Jill's Legacy, which is a sister organization of the ALCF, and it was for a young 22-year-old who had passed away from lung cancer. And being a college athlete like Jill had been, it really struck me, and I had heard about this from a friend who'd gone to an event. Months later, I developed a cough and a wheeze, and Jill's story, the advocacy events that went on around Jill were what prompted me to ask for a chest X-ray, and what was ultimately led to my diagnosis. So, because of those things, because other people before me had gone on to make an impact in a world that they didn't have, Jill's friends and family brought together Jill's Legacy in her honor, and that has had an impact on me. Bonnie has created this foundation that's had a huge impact on me. I just feel compelled to share my story in a way that will hopefully help other patients that come after me. You amass so much knowledge in your cancer journey, things that you never thought you would have to learn or know, and it doesn't make any sense for me to hold that in to myself. It seems the only appropriate action would be to share that with others. And so as an advocate, I connect with patients through the foundation, newly diagnosed. I think it's mutually beneficial talking about my journey with new patients and trying to help them along the way, and hopefully beneficial for other patients. But then I do speaking engagements because we all know that there are a lot of cancer events out there and a lot of money being raised. We might as well try to nudge that towards lung cancer, as we need it. I kind of try to hammer home the fact that, when I walk on stage, I'm fairly certain that most people in the crowd normally think that I'm a breast cancer patient, and I kind of try to use that to my advantage and kind of hammer home the point that, I'm a lung cancer patient. There are more like me. I'm not an anomaly, and we need your help. We need your funding. So that's what brought me to where I am here.
So Emily gave she actually was the keynote at World Lung, and were you in Denver at the World Lung Conference, and it was like you could have heard a pin drop in the room when she was telling her story. and being that advocate. I mean, there was not a dry eye in the house, just like, and we're at World Lung. I mean, everybody there, they're like up to their eyeballs in lung cancer, right? And even they.
This is 6,000 people from around the world gathering for a 3-4 day meeting on lung cancer every year. And I think this was the one in Denver. And Emily did the keynote speech for the opening session. They had never done anything like that before, letting a patient do the keynote speech. But I mean, this is a room full of physicians and clinicians and researchers and whatever. They had no idea that people like Emily or Emily's age got lung cancer.
Well, and I think that's
They
why.
had no clue.
Yeah, I think that's why this legislation is so important too, to kind of bring it even kind of back around, because I think when most people think about lung cancer, they think of a, 85, 90-year-old grandfather sitting on a front porch who smokes 4 packs a day, right? That's what they think about lung cancer. So when you bring someone like Emily, and even when you bring women who are the nurturers, they're the mothers, they're the sisters, they're the best friends, they're the carer-ofs, when you bring that face to the forefront, all of a sudden people kind of go, wait.
They start paying attention.
Well, I think, so, the ALCF has also done a study on young lung cancer, the genomics of young lung cancer. And I'm remembering something my mom always said, what blesses one blesses all. And the point of all this research is that there's more research going into lung cancer. And it may not be the specific group that targets you, and it may not be the specific group that is going to specifically help your diagnosis at this moment, but any research that is benefiting lung cancer is benefiting all lung cancer. We may find something in the genomics of young lung cancer study that helps all patients, that finds a new mutation and that finds a new targetable mutation. We may find something in this bill that not only helps women, but also helps families or men or children. So, any research that is going towards this overall cause is going to help the overall good of lung cancer patients.